Hey YouTube, my name is Don Iacovella. I am a full-time furniture maker, and if you clicked on this video, I'm guessing you want to see how I made this cool walnut credenza inspired by George Nakashima. You can see it's got pull-out walnut drawers, sliding doors with like fabric back, adjustable shelves, and then it's got a through dovetail detail on each end of the piece. I mean, if you decide to check out my work, you'll see I really dig Nakashima's style. I've reproduced quite a few of his designs at this point. So, step one is I'm going to figure out where to straight line this rough lumber. I like to do that with a track saw. It's way better than trying to freehand it on a table saw. That's what I used to do. It's kind of scary. This is way better. So now we figure out the rough width so I can cut the outside. Track saw again. So we do the cabinet maker's triangle and mark the placement of the piece. That's going to be the top. Clean up a little. Shop's trashed. So now we're prepping for glue. Just going to run that through the joiner. Then I like to glue everything up in the rough. You'll see why in a little while. I glue everything up rough, and then I run it through one of those like router flattener jig things. Feel free to leave a comment about the ketchup bottle. Somebody always does. I'm just cheap, man. I use ketchup bottles. I don't care. Bar clamps. So there's all the parts set to the side, drying up. Here's that flattening jig. So this is a True Track system. It's a company in Ohio. Found them on Google somehow. You can look it up if you want. But I'm also a welder, so I welded a nice big flat steel base to mount the track system to, and just get all the dust off there. Then that's the sled. You mount the router in the sled and it slides on the tracks. Then you sort of level out the rough wood on the jig there. Use shims, and then I pin it with these sort of homemade plywood clamp things with set screws. There they are. So there's a finish nail stuck in the end of there. I just kind of poke it into the edge of the wood, and that holds it in place. You don't need a whole lot of pressure. Just sort of pin it right to left so it doesn't kick out on you. That's the flattening bit with an extension. If you didn't know those extensions existed, they do. They're pretty sweet. Um, just gives you a little more flexibility. You don't have to mess around with the piece as much. You can just kind of clamp it to the table, and your bit will be extended far enough to cut. So here we go. Just run the router back and forth. I usually cut like a 16th at a time. If you do any more than that, it gets pretty scary. So yeah, just kind of whip through that. Now it's flat on one side. Stupid clamp stuck. There we go. So this piece is less than 20 inches wide, so I'm only going to flatten one side. Then I can run it through my planer. If you don't have a wide enough planer, you can just run both sides with the router. Here we go to the joiner again. Get the one side straight, rip it to width. I think I'm going to do this in 2 parts. I think I'll do a part 2 video. We'll see how it pans out. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. I'm still pretty new at YouTube. My videos aren't that great, but you know, man, you just keep going, keep making them. They get a little better every time. But here we go. All the pieces are flat. So I found if I put them in clamps and cauls, that really keeps them nice and flat, you know, because I'm not going to get to cutting it right away. So this is the base. I'm skipping ahead to the base now. Gotta mark it out. I'm gonna cut sort of like half lap joints to attach everything. I'm gonna do that with the router coming up next. Just a homemade jig. Set the depth on the bit. So the jig's designed to just clamp to the piece, and it's also designed so it won't like blow out the backside once you run the router through. I'm cutting in a full inch deep, so I do it in several passes with these shim blocks. So I put the block down, make the first pass, you know, only take like a 1/4 inch, get rid of the block. Now I'm going to take another 1/4 inch, then get rid of that block, make the final pass. It's a little quicker to do it this way instead of like setting the depth of the bit over and over again. So I'm gonna I try not to measure things. I just use a cutoff and like set it in place as a jig. That'll get you right where you need to be. Then we do it again. Probably could have cut this part out. I think you get the idea. But I'm not turning back now. We're just going to go with it. Little test fit. Want it to be pretty tight because it's going to get smaller after you sand it. So that's right there. That's where you want to be. And there you go. Half lap joint. Tap it in place. Pretty good fit. And that's what your base looks like. I'll attach that to the cabinet with those like figure eight hardware things. Then we're going to do some butterflies. I like to just lay them out, see how I feel about it. I keep a couple of like scrap butterflies around. And just trace them out. I'm going to do this with a router jig. Going to cut the butterflies first. So that's just like 1/4-inch plywood there that I made the butterfly templates with. And then the router bit's got like an inside and an outside bearing. I don't know if I did a close-up of it, but you remove one part of the bearing to cut the inside piece, and then you put the part back to cut the outside piece. And here we go. Plunge it in, follow the template. And that's butterfly. Unscrew the jig. So I'm going to cut these out on the table saw, but you can do it on a bandsaw. Whatever works for you, man. So now we'll do the matching router cutout on the cabinet piece. Same template, but now we're just gonna add the extra bearing to the bottom of the router. It's the thickness of the router bit. You know, I always forget to say this. I finally got my YouTube channel monetized. So if you're still actually watching this terrible video and you want to support me and my channel, and I'll keep doing these videos, and I promise they'll get way better, you can subscribe to my channel, and that will get me more money. So here we go, routing that out. Take the jig off. Then the rest I clean up with a chisel. I guess you could do it with a router if you wanted to, but this is fast, pretty easy. So this is definitely going to be a two-part video. If you're interested so far, stay tuned. I'll put out another video with the rest of the build. So just clean up the corners by hand. And just regular old wood glue. Again with the ketchup bottle. Somebody's going to leave a comment. And it's a pretty snug fit. Just light tap with the hammer. Use a block on top of there so you don't crack it. And that's a butterfly. Demystified. So next I'm going to square up the side panels of the cabinet and start to lay out the dovetails. I'll go into more depth in the dovetails in part 2, but this is just going to get you there. Well, getting pretty close to the end of this video. I'm just going to say thanks again if you made it this far. I know there's way better produced YouTube videos out there, but you got to start somewhere, man. So this is where I'm starting. If you dig it, subscribe. This is my style. I'm going to build a lot of mid-century modern style pieces and definitely a lot of Nakashima inspired stuff. So check out the next one. Thanks again. Finkelstein cites a famous paper by the economist George Akerlof called "The Market for Lemons: Quality."